Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashata Shishimar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashata Shishimar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nityal Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Srila Goraksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nityal Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki jai. Nityal Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Anugoriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhattadash Raghunath Sārātha Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Ṭhākura ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Radha Kun Shama Kun Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Sārārtha-darśinī Vritti ki jai. Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura ki jai. Shri Shruti Stuti ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Jnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yang Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Tara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravobhinedustang Sarvabhuta Hridayang Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Praishvavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki Tavaivasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Kshiptashtakamaditaranga Madhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Haribol, everybody. So, as you're watching this, right, I am on the train on my way to Kolkata. So, this is a pre-recorded video. And actually, I'm not fully packed yet. I haven't packed my backpack, and I'm leaving in an hour from now. So, and I have to see everybody, and it's actually, I probably shouldn't be making a video right now, but I just wanted to stay true to my word. But yeah, this is going to be a very short video. So, I'll just start right now. So we're reading Chapter 87 of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Shruti Stuti, the prayers of the personified Vedas. Shri Parikshit said, O Brahman, how can the Vedas directly describe the supreme absolute truth who could not be described in words? The Vedas are limited to describing the qualities of material nature, but the Supreme is devoid of these qualities, being transcendental to all material manifestations and their causes. Shukadeva Goswami said, the Supreme Lord manifested the material intelligence, senses, mind, and vital air of the living entities so that they could indulge their desires for sense gratification, take repeated births to engage in fruitive activities, become elevated in future lives, and ultimately attain liberation. Those who came before even our ancient predecessors meditated upon the same confidential knowledge of the absolute truth. Indeed, anyone who faithfully concentrates on this knowledge will become free from material attachments and eternal goal of life. In this connection, I will relate to you a narration concerning the Supreme Lord Narayan. It is about a conversation that once occurred between Sri Narayan Rishi and Narad Muni. Once, while traveling among the various planets of the universe, the Lord's beloved devotee Narad went to visit the primeval sage Narayan at his ashram. From the very beginning of Lord Narayan Rishi has been undergoing austere penances in this land of Bharat while perfectly performing religious duties and exemplifying spiritual knowledge and self-control, all for the benefit of human beings in both this world and the next. There, Narad approached Lord Narayan Rishi, who was sitting amidst sages of the Vilpa. After bowing down to the Lord, O hero of the Kurus, Narad asked him the very same question you have asked me. As the sages listened, Lord Narayan Rishi related to Narad an ancient discussion about the absolute truth that took place among the residents of Janaloka. The personality of Godhead said, O son of self-born Brahma, once long ago on Janaloka, wise sages who resided there performed a great sacrifice to the absolute truth by vibrating transcendental sounds. These sages, mental sons of Brahma, were all perfect celibates. At that time, you happened to be visiting the Lord on Shvetadvip, that Supreme Lord in whom the Vedas lie down to rest during the period of universal annihilation. A lively discussion arose among the sages on Janaloka as to the nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Indeed, the same question arose then that you are asking me now. Although these sages were all equally qualified in terms of Vedic study and austerity, and although they all saw friends, enemies, and neutral parties equally, they chose one of their number to be the speaker, and the rest became eager listeners. So now, this is what he said. Sri Sanandana replied, after the Supreme Lord withdrew the universe he had previously created, he lay for some time as if asleep, and all his energies rested dormant within him. When the time came for the next creation, the personified Vedas awakened him by chanting his glories, just as the poet serving a king approach him at dawn and awaken him by reciting his heroic deeds. The Shruti said, Victory, victory to you, O unconquerable one! By your very nature, you are perfectly full in all opulences. Therefore, please defeat the eternal power of illusion, who assumes control over the modes of nature to create difficulties for conditioned souls. O you who awaken all the energies of the moving and non-moving embodied beings, sometimes the Vedas can recognize you as you sport with your material and spiritual potencies. This perceivable world is identified with the Supreme, because the Supreme Brahman is the ultimate foundation of all existence, remaining unchanged as all created things are generated from it, and at last dissolved into it, just as clay remains unchanged by the products made from it, and again merged with it. Thus, it is toward you alone that the Vedic sages direct all their thoughts, words, and acts. After all, how can the footsteps of men fail to touch the earth on which they live? O Master of the three worlds, the wise get rid of all misery by diving deep into the nectarian ocean of topics about you, which washes away all the contamination of the universe. Then what to speak of those who, having by spiritual strength rid their minds of bad habits and freed themselves from time, are able to worship your true nature, O Supreme One, finding with uninterrupted bliss. Only if they become your faithful followers are those who breathe actually alive. Otherwise, their breathing is just like that of a bellows. It is by your mercy alone that the elements, beginning with the Mahatattva and false ego, created the egg of this universe. Among the manifestations known as Annamaya and so forth, you are the ultimate one, entering within the material coverings along with the living entity and assuming the same forms as those he takes. Distinct from the gross and subtle material manifestations, you are the reality underlying them all. Among the followers of the methods set forth by great sages, those with less refined vision worship the Supreme as present in the region of the abdomen, while the Arunis worship him as present in the heart, and the subtle center from which all the pranic channels emanate. From there, O unlimited, these worshippers raise their consciousness upward to the top of the head, where they can perceive you directly. Then, passing through the top of the head toward the supreme destination, they reach that place from which they will never again fall to this world, into the mouth of death. Apparently entering among the variegated species of living beings you have created, you inspire them to act, manifesting yourself to their higher and lower positions, just as fire manifests differently according to the shape of what it burns. Therefore, those of spotless intelligence who are altogether free from material attachments realize your undifferentiated, unchanging self to be the permanent reality among all these impermanent life forms. The individual, while inhabiting the material bodies he has created for himself by his karma, actually remains uncovered by either gross or subtle matter. This is so because, as the Vedas describe, he is part and parcel of you, the possessor of all potencies. Having determined this to be the status of the living entity, learned sages become imbued with faith and worship your lotus feet, to which all Vedic sacrifices in this world are offered, and which are the source of liberation. Some fortunate souls have gotten relief from the fatigue of material life by diving into the vast nectar ocean of your pastimes, which you enact when you manifest your personal forms to propagate the unfathomable science of the self. These rare souls, indifferent even to liberation, renounce the happiness of home and family because of their association with devotees who are like flocks of swans enjoying at the lotus of your feet. When this human body is used for your devotional service, it acts as one's self, friend, and beloved. But unfortunately, although you always show mercy to the condemned souls and affectionately help them in every way, and although you are their true self, people in general fail to relate in you. Instead, they commit spiritual suicide by worshipping illusion. Alas, because they persistently hope for success in their devotion to the unreal, they continue to wander about this greatly fearful world, assuming various degraded bodies. Simply by constantly thinking of him, the enemies of the Lord attains the same supreme truth whom sages fixed in yoga worshipped by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, who generally see you as all-pervading, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms. For you look upon us and your consorts in the same way. Shruti Chari Gopis. Everyone in this world has that's a pretty, anyways, can they actually? Everyone in this world has recently been born and will soon die. So how can anyone here know him who existed prior to everything else, and who gave rise to the first learned sage Brahma and all subsequent demigods, both lesser and greater? When he lies down and withdraws everything within himself, nothing else remains. No gross or subtle matter or bodies composed of these, no force of time or revealed scripture. Supposed authorities who declare that matter is the origin of existence, that the permanent qualities of the soul can be destroyed, that the self is compounded of separate aspects of spirit and matter, or that material transactions constitute reality, all such authorities base their teachings on mistaken ideas that hide the truth. The dualistic conception that the living entity is produced from the three modes of nature is simply a product of ignorance. Such a conception has no real basis in you, for you are transcendental to all illusion and always enjoy perfect total awareness. The three modes of material nature comprise everything in this world, from the simplest phenomena to the complex human body. Although these phenomena appear real, they are only a false reflection of the spiritual reality, being a superimposition of the mind upon you. Still, those who know the Supreme Self consider the entire material creation to be real, inasmuch as it is non-different from the Self. Things made of gold are indeed not to be rejected, since their substance is actual gold. Just as things made of gold are indeed not to be rejected, since their substance is actual gold, so this world is undoubtedly non-different from the Lord, who created it, and then entered within it. The devotees who worship as the shelter of all beings disregard death and place their feet on his head. But with the words of the Vedas, you bind the non-devotees like animals, though they be vastly learned scholars. It is your affectionate devotees who can purify themselves and others. Let me reread that. It is your affectionate devotees who can purify themselves and others, not those who are inimical to you. Though you have no material senses, you are the self-effulgent sustainer of everyone's sensory powers. The demigods and material nature herself offer you tribute, while also enjoying the tribute offered them by their worshippers, just as subordinate rulers of various districts in a kingdom offer tribute to their lord, the ultimate proprietor of the land, while also enjoying the tribute paid them by their own subjects. In this way, the universal creators faithfully execute their assigned services out of fear of you. O eternally liberated transcendental Lord, your material energy causes the various moving and non-moving species of life to appear by activating their material desires, but only when and if you sport with her by briefly glancing at her. Let me reread that. O eternally liberated transcendental Lord, your material energy causes the various moving and non-moving species of life to appear by activating their material desires, but only when and if you sport with her by briefly glancing at her. You, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, see no one as an intimate friend and no one as a stranger, just as the ethereal sky has no connection with the perceptible qualities. In this sense, you resemble a void. Okay, so that's where we read to this morning, or for you it's going to be tomorrow. And then, this is the last verse of the Shruti Stuti. Aparimita dhruvastanubhrito yadi sarvagatas tarhi na shasyate tiniyamo dhruvanetarata ajani chayan mayang taravimochaniantri bhavet samamanujanatam yaramatam matadushtaya. If the countless living entities were all-pervading and possessed forms that never changed, you could not possibly be their absolute ruler, O immutable one. But since they are your localized expansions and their forms are subject to change, you do control them. Indeed, that which supplies the ingredients for the generation of something is necessarily its controller, because it never exists apart from its ingredient cause. It is simply illusion for someone to think that he knows the Supreme Lord, who is equally present in each of his expansions, since whatever knowledge one gains by material means must be imperfect. If I explain this verse in a more simple way and explain the meaning of all the Sanskrit words in a YouTube video which I played yesterday. You can find it on Vine of Devotion on YouTube, that channel. I think the title of the video is My Relation and Position to the Lord, or something like that. Anyways, I think it's RS, like Rupa Shiksha 3B. I think that's what it is. All right, so now let's read Srila Viśvanātha Chakravartī Ṭhākura's commentary on this. Oops, I closed it. Let me open it again. And as I mentioned before, today's going to be a very short reading because I still need to finish packing. And yeah, I'm leaving very soon. So Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. The Shruti said, there are widely differing theories among the various philosophers about this jiva who accepted different moving and non-moving bodies. The Advaita Mayavadis, for example, propose that there is only one living being and one power of illusion that covers him, producing the appearance of plurality. But this hypothesis leads to the absurd conclusion that when any one jiva becomes liberated, everyone obtains liberation. If, on the other hand, there are many avidyas to cover the one jiva, each avidya will cover only some part of him, and we would have to talk about his becoming partly liberated at particular times, while his other parts remain in bondage. This is also obviously absurd. Thus, the plurality of living beings is an unavoidable conclusion. The advocates of Nyaya and Vaisheshika claim that the jiva soul is infinite in size. If souls were infinitesimal, they would not pervade their own bodies, whereas if they were of medium size, they would be divisible into parts and thus could not be eternal. Therefore, the numerous eternal jiva souls are each infinitely large, so how can they be covered by any power of bondage, whether belonging to avidya or the Supreme Soul himself? Then explain in this verse that others do not accept this opinion of the Nyaya philosophers. The Shruti said, if the countless living entities were eternal, rather than being generated from you and also all-pervading, then because they would be thus equal to you, the scriptures would not say that they are under your control. O Lord, you are perpetually in your original form, not otherwise. That is to say, if they were generated from you, then they would not be all-pervading, and thus would be under your control. Lord Narayan, how is this? Shrutis. Since the jivas come into existence as an effect of Brahman, Brahman would be their controller. On account of being their source, he does not separate himself from the jivas. Lord Narayan, what is this Brahman? Shrutis. He is equal toward all the jivas in his expansion as Paramatma. If someone asks what is known by the word tad, from that, the Shrutis answer, for those who say, we know it, anujanatam, we know it. It is for all extents and purposes unknown, because the Vedas say that knowledge gained by sense perception is imperfect. So if they say anujanatam, we know it, then actually what they're saying is amatam, is not possible to be known. It's stupid. It's not an actual mata, right? It's not an actual, it's like, yeah. It's mata dushtataya. It's completely imperfect. Dushtataya. Wicked. This is confirmed in the Kena Upanishad 2.3. Yasya matam tasya matam tasya navedasa avigyatam vijanatam vigyatam avijanatam. Whoever denies having any opinion of his own about the supreme truth is correct in his opinion. The only right opinion about for the supreme truth is no opinion. Whereas one who has his own opinion about the supreme does not know him. He is unknown to those who claim to know him, and he can only be known by those who do not claim to. The Shrutis also say, avachanenaiva provacha. Although he cannot be described in words, the Vedas have described him. Also it is said, saha tushnim babhuva. By not speaking, he spoke and then became silent. The Kena Upanishad 2.1 states, Yadi nyase su vedeti dabhram evapi nunam tvam veta brahmano rupam yad asya tvam yad asya deveshu. If you think you know Brahman well, then your knowledge is very meager. If you think you can identify Brahman's form from among the demigods, indeed, you know but little. Oh, I thought that was the last verse of the Shruti Stuti. I guess we're getting close to the end. Okay. Na ghatata udbhava prakriti purushayor ajayor ubhaya yuja bhavantya subrito jalabud buddhavat tvaita ime tato vividha nama gunai parame sarita ivarnave madhuni lilyur asheshara saha. Neither material nature nor the soul who tries to enjoy her are ever born, yet living bodies come into being when these two combine, just as bubbles form when water meets the air, and just as rivers merge into the ocean, or the nectar from many different flowers blends into honey. So all these conditioned beings eventually merge back into you, the Supreme, along with their various names and qualities. Commentary. It is seen that others criticize this doctrine. If you say that the jivas are born from the Paramatma, then that means the jivas are not eternal. Every day, things created would be destroyed and uncreated things would come into being. Moreover, liberation would consist of the destruction of the jiva's essential identity. But his essential identity, his swarup, is Brahman. Just as the unlimited sky becomes limited by a pot, and when the pot is broken, the sky is again unlimited. Similarly, when the designative coverings, the upadis of the jivas are broken, then liberation is attained. What is called the birth of the jivas is simply the birth of these upadis, for the jiva itself is not born. In this verse, the Shrutis, while glorifying the Lord, relate the philosophy of those who speak like this. I was going to say, that sounds like Mayavad, or Brahma. In this connection, the question arises, does the form of the jivas arise from Prakriti, from the Purush, or from both? If the jiva arises from Prakriti, then the jiva would be without consciousness. If the jiva arises from the Purusha, then the Purusha is subject to transformation. In the first line of this verse, the Shruti rejects the third alternative, that the jivas arise from both Prakriti and the Purusha, because the Shrutis declare that the jiva is unborn, ajayor. This is confirmed in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad 4.5. Ajam ekam lohita shukla krishnam bhavi praja srimajanam sarupa ajo hyeko jushamano nusete jahatyenam bhukta bhogam ajonya. Material nature consists of the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, and is the mother of the innumerable living beings within the universe. It is brought into existence and supported by the one unborn Lord, who is full in self-knowledge. That unborn Lord, however, does not consort with his material energy. He independently enjoys the pleasure of his transcendental pastimes. The living entity, however, enjoys her and becomes perpetually bound, and thus becomes perpetually bound. The combination of material nature, Prakriti, and her controller, Purusha, that produces the countless conditioned souls and material creation is compared here to the combination of water and air that produces limitless bubbles of foam on the surface of the sea. Just as the efficient cause, air, impels the ingredient cause, water, to form itself into bubbles, so by his glance, the Supreme Purusha inspires Prakriti to transform herself into the array of material elements and the innumerable material forms that manifest from those elements. Because the scriptures speak of the upadis, designative coverings, merging into Brahman again when they are destroyed, even their birth is not actual. This the Shrutis state in the third line of the verse. Okay, sorry. The words beginning tato, therefore, states that since the jivas are not actually born, therefore, they merge along with their various names and qualities into you. The dissolution of the living beings of the jivas, the dissolution of the living being's material condition occurs in two ways, partial and complete. In liberation and mukti, or the final dissolution, the jiva's designative coverings of the gross and subtle bodies, and also the upadhis of ignorance, avidya, which is their cause, all become dissolved, just as rivers merge into the ocean. In other words, all the false material designations of the jivas are given up at the time of liberation. Partial dissolution, not partial dissolution. That's what I was trying to do. Partial dissolution occurs when the souls experience deep, dreamless sleep, sushupti, and appears to leave his body. Partial dissolution also occurs when all souls re-enter the body of Mahavishnu at the time of universal annihilation, at the time of pralay. In deep sleep and during the annihilation of the universe, however, only the designative coverings, the upadhis of the gross and subtle bodies are dissolved, and not that of their cause, avidya, ignorance. These different types of dissolution are just like honey, which contains the tastes of nectar of different flowers. Even though these tastes are not individually perceivable, they are perceived in a general sense. These points are corroborated in the following shrutis. Yatha nadya syandamana samudre satam gachanti nama rupe vihaya tata vidvan nama rupar vimukta parat param purusham upaiti devyam. As rivers flow to their dissolution in the sea, giving up their names and forms at their destination, so the wise man who becomes free from material names and forms attains the supreme absolute. This is the wonderful personality of Godhead. That's from the Mundaka Upanishad 3-8. Yatha somya madhu madhu krito nistishtanti nanatyayanam vrikshanam rasan samavaharam ekam sangayanti. Sorry about that. Te yata tatra na vivekam labhante amushyaham vrikshasya rasosmyamushyaham rasosmityevam eva kalu somyema sarva praja sati sampadya na vidu sati sampadya mahi. My dear boy, this partial dissolution resembles what happens when honeybees collect honey by extracting the nectar from the flowers of various kinds of trees and merge it all into a single mixture. Just as the mixed nectars cannot distinguish, I am the juice of such and such a flower, or I am the juice of another flower, so, dear boy, when all these living entities merge together, they cannot consciously think, now we have merged together. That's from the Chandogya Upanishad 6-9, verses 1 and 2. The verse quoted above from the Mundaka Upanishad refers to liberation, and the verse from the Chandogya Upanishad refers to universal annihilation, pralay. Okay, this is a long commentary, so we will have to end here. Sorry, only 2 verses today, because I have to pack. Oh my god, I'm leaving really soon. Alright, so, yeah, see you all tomorrow when, hopefully, if I get a good Wi-Fi connection when I'm in Kolkata, and then we'll continue reading from verse 32. Alright. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaur, Haribol, Nitai Gaur, Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaur, Haribol. जय श्री श्री गुरु गौरांग गंधार्विक गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशुमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशुमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशुमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशुमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशुमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गोक्षर बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानुग गौरी गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व विश्व प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री श्रुति स्तुति की जय। श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। Sārārtha-darśinī वृत्ति की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाय कृष्ण भक्ति पद देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वंश कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Dandavat pranams, everybody. So I'll see you all tomorrow when I'm in Kolkata. I'm going to be in Kolkata for 2 nights, I think. Yeah, I go back to Navadvip on the 26th. And so then on the 27th, I'll be reading from Navadvip. All right. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe.